going to be presenting a panel this morning here called Incybered, Inspiring Students Through Technology. I am Brandon Cohn. I teach New Tech Speech at Austin High School in El Paso, Texas, along with...
And I'm Vanessa Amos, Canyon Hills Middle School in El Paso, Texas.
And the purpose of our panel this morning is to discuss how technology is integrated into the classroom and how it affects students' lives both positively and negatively, essentially. And we're going to explore creative ways to use technology to both inspire students and encourage them to utilize it themselves, because obviously it's something that is constantly changing on a consistent basis. This year in particular, I have found it more intriguing than ever to be utilizing technology in the classroom, because I made the jump from middle school to high school and am part of the New Tech program within the high school network, and I feel that it's intriguing that Vanessa is part of New Tech in middle school as well. So I have to say that making the jump to high school has been extremely interesting, and the whole New Tech network is about inspiring children to utilize both project-based learning. Also, it deals with team teaching. So essentially, we have incorporated world history with speech to entitle the course World Communication. And our projects are based off of the things that we're teaching in speech and, of course, in world history. And thus far, it's been an interesting challenge, to say the least, to learn about, of course, not only the history components, but the speech components, and to be able to both creatively come up with various project ideas.
What I'm going to have you do is, if you could get on your phone and you go to nearpod.com, nearpod.com, or you can go on your computer also. Nearpod.com. And then you're going to join, it's going to ask you to join a lesson, and then let me know when you're there so I can give you the code. I wish there was a whiteboard, you could write things down.
Join a lesson.
Okay, it's Z as in zebra, G as in guy, Q, N, S as in Sam. Z, G, Q, N, S.
It says welcome to this session.
Okay.
Then we type in our stuff.
It should bring you up to the first screen. It should say Incybered, Inspiring Students Through Technology.
Mine says welcome to this session.
Oh yeah, you have to type in your name.
I just do an abbreviation.
Yeah. Do you want to go with your pictures?
Sure, definitely.
So everything that we're going to be talking about, it will be on your phone.
Okay.
So you can follow along.
So I'm going to go ahead and start by showing you guys some pictures of New Tech. And the basis behind it is to combine a couple different classrooms. So we have block schedules, periods first and second, third and fourth, combined in world communication classes. The rooms have, generally speaking, about 40 to 50 students, and you have co-teachers. So essentially, I'm working with another teacher. You have the two 45-minute blocks, one, of course, which is dedicated to the world history, and the other block dedicated to speech. And it's extremely interesting the way the technology has kind of gotten more advanced, even with the likes of the furniture that the kids have in New Tech, because they actually have tables that wheel, so they can be accessibly moved around the room, and of course wheeling chairs. So the floors are brand new, and I think that the interesting part about the speech component is to not only have them do their primary projects, which incorporate, like I mentioned, this past time, for example, we were incorporating informative speaking along with ancient Greece and ancient Rome. Prior to that, it was persuasive speaking. And what we do is we'll have the kids do like mini speech projects within a couple of weeks, because a project can last anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. The best part about this particular instance, especially with all the technology, is the kids have access to a program that's called ECHO. And now ECHO is similar to what they noted during the last panel called Schoology. And basically ECHO gives the kids a sense of responsibility to teach them almost like what it would be like to be in college now, for example, as sophomores in high school, because not only do they receive a syllabus at the very beginning of the year, but all of their notes are done on ECHO. The lesson plan is on ECHO, a daily agenda, as well as assignments. So therefore they can see the rubrics, they can see all the information that is going to be relevant for how to achieve a good grade in the course, and it's all based on ECHO. So it's teaching them about this advanced type of technology at such a young age, and really prepare them for high school. But as you can see from the pictures, the layout is intriguing. You've put two classrooms together. I do bring in guest speakers to talk to them about real world situations. And thus far, it's been a really enlightening experience.
I was going to go and talk about how I utilize technology in my lesson plans. And so this is why I did the Nearpod. It's a big push, at least at my campus, to use Nearpod when it comes to lessons. And so Nearpod gives you a couple different ways of being able to teach your kids. You can do a live lesson, which is what I'm doing right now, where I pace it. Or you can set it up for just the students. They log in and they can go at their pace to do the notes, to do whatever you need them to do on Nearpod. There's activities, there's quizzes, you can have them draw, you can have them take a poll. Nearpod, the things that Nearpod has are pretty limitless. You can have them, you can type in a place and they can do a 3D tour of that place. It's just really interesting what Nearpod has for them. So my district or my campus actually pushes Nearpod a lot. This is how we do our lessons. The kids have to do their Cornell notes and things, so you just kind of push it out to them, and they're able to go at their own pace. You can walk around, you can make sure that if they have any clarifying questions, you can go more one-on-one with the kids as they're taking their notes. Or doing whatever they need to. Some of my kids, they'll do their projects on Nearpod. They'll do a presentation and then they'll share out a Nearpod and have the students give them feedback on what they liked, what they didn't, things that they need to do better. In New Tech, we do a critical friends protocol. And so at the end of a project, they'll say their I likes, their I wonders, and then a next step to how can they make their project better. And so we can do that in Nearpod. They can type in their I likes, their I wonders, and then their next steps. And the kids always can reference their Nearpod later. Something that the biology and science teachers are using that I'm excited to use in my class is Erasma. It's an app that you can put on your phone that will will turn anything into augmented reality. So it's an app on your phone, and you can, what you'll do is, there's a little video next to it. Let's see if the video loads. But what you do is you can take a screenshot of something and you make the parameters, you put the little dots around it, and then you tell basically the app what you want to show, and it'll make a little movie basically on the Erasma. What the science teacher showed us was a dollar bill, and you could make an Erasma out of the dollar bill. It's just really interesting what they have. So there's a little video here for you.
You can use it to engage your learners.
Do your kids all have,
Understand.
do y'all have the laptops that all of the middle school kids got? Or do
Yeah, so they have all the MacBooks.
they
But
have all the MacBooks, okay.
what we did last year was I only had iPads, and so if I had a class of 35, I had maybe 20 iPads. And so a lot of this stuff can be used on iPads, on phones, anything that they can basically get internet access.
Internet access,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, we got it right.
And so the Erasma makes like a little 3D, not virtual reality, but they call it augmented reality, and it'll have pictures behind it. So like in this instance, this little boy is looking at the brush strokes, and they just have like little videos that they can look at that all they have to do is take a screenshot of the picture, and there's something that goes with it. If I had my in focus, I would have showed you the Erasmus for the dollar bill. It's kind of cool. They take the $1 bill and then it counts down. It says like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then they show the $1 bill and then it like moves around, and it's really cool. The science and biology teacher, or the biology and art teacher, did it with cells, and so they put a poster board and they made a community, and it was supposed to represent each part of the cell, and so they made Erasmus to show how that community turned into the cell and stuff. So it's really interesting how they used it. My speech kids used iMovie. It's something that they really love to do. They can create original pieces, or they can utilize the templates that are on iMovie. We participated in the Digital Film Festival last year, and so they loved doing the movie trailers. And they actually came out really good. I'm kind of sad that they didn't win, because they were actually really, really good. The kids take a lot of pride in what they were doing. And then I integrate technology into assessments. I use Plickers, Go Formative, and Socrative. Those are my favorites. Plickers is looks like a QR code, but each kid gets it, and you put up a question up on the screen, they hold up the Plicker, and you just scan it with your phone or your iPad, and it automatically grades them. And based on the way they hold the Plicker shows like, oh, I'm holding it this way, it's A, B, C, D, and it scans it. It's connected to their name, so then it gives them an automatic grade. So you can go back and say, oh, Sarah Jane, you answered B. Why did you choose B instead of the correct answer or whatever? So it's really, my kids love it. They think it's hilarious that all I have to do is just stand and scan their answers there. Go Formative, you can take a screenshot of a worksheet, put it up on Go Formative, and they can type it in, answer the questions. You can watch as they're doing it, so it'll show you all of the different boxes of all the kids that have logged in, and you can see what they're doing. So you don't even have to walk around. You have your computer, and you can say, okay, Brandon, I see that you're not doing what you're supposed to. You're making little like drawings. You need to erase it and get back to work. You can give them questions. You can assess them, or you can just give them a question to answer, and they come up with what they want to do. And then Socrative is just an easy assessment. I like to give assessments to see where my kids are at, especially now that I'm a core subject. But you go on to Socrative, you put in some questions, live action. As they're answering, you can see what they're doing. It gives you immediate feedback. They can race against each other. They can do an exit ticket. There's a lot of stuff that's on Socrative that you can give them. They enter the room, you put up a question. As they're leaving the room, you can put up a question. They type it in real quickly, they're done, and then they can leave for the day. So that's how I integrate technology into my classroom. It's super simple to me to just integrate, especially now that my kids are one-to-one, I find it more difficult because now they have the computer and it's easy to distract, like be able to like cover it or like slide, new tabs. When it was their phone and an iPad, they had a little bit harder time figuring out how to hide what they were doing. So I guess it's a little catch-22 when it comes to technology.
And at Austin High School with Panther New Tech, the kids also do have their own laptops, and they'll be getting the iBooks, the iMacs rather, here in the next couple of months. And it's intriguing with PBL, project-based learning. What every student in each group, when they're doing their primary projects, the major project per each few weeks or whatnot, each student is given a certain task. So not only do they all use a various form of technology to create the task. For example, we were creating a newspaper for ancient Rome from various things like athletics to politics to government, where they worked in groups of 2 this last project. And they had to learn about newspapers, they had to learn about layouts, they had to learn about how to write professionally, and of course informative speaking, how that all ties into creating a successful newspaper. So each student has a role in the group, and it teaches a lot of responsibility and how to utilize the technology in a professional way. Also, it's worth mentioning that prior to this project, our very first project, which incorporated persuasive speaking, they were trying to persuade us about ancient civilizations, why we should go there, pretending like the students, the audience, and the teachers were almost like a tourism board. And essentially like ancient Egypt, the Yellow River Valley, Mesopotamia, those were some of the regions that they represented. And they actually had to create a brochure. And they had to go online and they had to learn about different brochures. We brought brochures from different hotels within El Paso to show the kids and kind of model for them what a brochure looks like and how you should kind of keep your points simple and not include too much information, because then people will get tired of reading. And it's just to keep it as simple as possible, but also how important visual aids are to use whenever you're incorporating technology. So the kids are using a bunch of different types of technology for visual aids, from videos to pictures, and of course learning about brochures, newspapers, and the teamwork aspect is one of the more interesting aspects, because they learn at a young age, again, that it's all about working with individuals and how you communicate with each other and whether or not you'll be successful. So that's one of the, I think, the most interesting things about New Tech thus far, and how we've integrated various forms of technology.
Do you all have any questions for us? Our plethora of
Yeah.
attendees. There is a poll that I ask you guys to take. I have it up there on the Nearpod. It's just, of the ones that we showed you or I showed you, which one interested you the most, so that if you have any questions, I can kind of answer them for you based on what I know of them. But
Since we have time, can you go back and talk a little more about Flickrs and how
yeah,
you use
for
it?
sure. So, go back. So Flickrs is like a little QR code. So what happens is you put, you go out to flickrs.com and you create a login, and it's free. So all you have to do is create a login. You can create classes. So I have 3 classes. And you assign them a Flickr. So all you have to do is, as you type in a name, it'll give them the number. And then on Flickrs, you just click on cards and you can print out the cards. You can do 1 big Flickr per page. What I do is do the normal, so it's 2 per page. I cut them out and I give them to the kids, and they have to glue them into their notebook. So it's on the front cover, the inside front cover of their notebook. And so when I put up a question, you actually do it from your phone. You put it in your queue and you click it on your phone or your iPad or whatever, and it'll show up on the screen. It'll have the questions on the left-hand side and the kids' names on the right, so they'll know whether their Flickr has been scanned, because it'll put a little check mark next to their name. And so as they're answering the question, you just click scan on your phone and you scan it. You just go around the room, and as it looks just like your camera, but as their Flickr, when they hold up their Flickr, it pops up their name and their answer. So it'll be green if it's correct, red if it's not, and then gray if they chose an answer that's not up on the screen. So like I do a lot of true and false, and so the kids sometimes will turn it to a C or a D, which isn't on the screen. But as you scan it, it shows up on the right-hand side. They put a check mark, or it's just their number, so the kids know that their name hasn't been scanned. And I tell my kids, you have until I finish scanning everyone to change your answer if you feel your answer is incorrect. And you just have to let me know, like, please rescan me. So then I rescan them if they need it. And then I can click on graph. It'll show them what they answered, and then you can reveal the answer if you choose to have them see which graph is the correct
So
one.
they're answering it by holding their
By
Flickr
holding their
certain
card, yeah. So
Okay.
it's like a little QR code.
Yeah.
So like, let's say this is the apple, right?
Yeah.
So then each side has a letter, A, B, C, D.
Uh-huh.
So then they kind of turn it however they need to,
Uh-huh.
and you scan it, and then they can say, oh, no, 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 I meant to do this one. And then you can scan it again. And for the magic of technology, the Flickr app knows what side is what, and each gets an individual little character. So that's why I have them glue it in, because it doesn't have their name on it. And if they forget what number they are, if you accidentally switch with someone, now they're getting the grade.
Right.
So I love Flickrs. It's an easy warm-up for me. If I just put up a question, all right, you have 2 minutes to figure it out, hold up your Flickr, scan, 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 let's move on. So you could do it as an exit ticket, you could do it as an assessment. I've done them as assessments. It takes a little bit longer when you have more questions.
Right.
But it's an easy, okay, let's see what you understood about it. Here's the clicker, answer it, scan, 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 done. So I really love clickers. My kids, I started it last week with them because I'm new tech, so now I have like 60 something kids in my class. So it takes a little bit longer, but they love it, and they're like trying to hold it up and be the first one. Oh, mine scanned first. It's awesome. I really do like clickers. It's a really, if you want to just do a quick exit ticket, quick assessment, quick anything that you just want immediate feedback from.
You said that it grades it automatically. Is it linked to the grade book?
Yeah, so they have, well, what it does is it has its own grade book, so it'll tell however many questions you had. It'll give the kid's name, because you put in their name, and then what it'll do is they'll say, out of the 5 questions, they got 3 out of 5, so then they have an 80%. And so what I do is I just kind of put my team's grade book next to it, and I just pop in their grades.
Okay, that was my question. I didn't know if it automatically.
Yeah, no, it doesn't
populated.
automatically populate in teams, but it does have its own grade book, so you can
That's like
keep it there.
Schoology is the same way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And kind of talking about what Vanessa had mentioned about iMovie, in the very beginning of the school year, we were teaching the students about norms and behavior and how in new tech and really in general how you're supposed to be professional and be responsible. The students got together in their groups and they used either iMovie or they used their phones, and then they used some editing software on their computers to actually put together like anywhere from a 1 to 2 minute plus skit to actually show the other students on our smart boards, because there are the smart boards in every single room. They're actually more like smart TVs. They're like 65 inches, and they're actually pretty incredible devices. Some of them are wireless, and it really blows me away how nice they really are. And I think that it was great, again, to teach them the responsibility of creating these movies and actually go out. They have a certain type of pass in New Tech. It's like a pass to be able to go anywhere in the school, because it's such a large school, Austin High School, and to film these movies. And that's what I really think is that, again, it's about not only integrating technology, but teaching the responsibility, if you have this pass, to obviously not abuse it, to be able to go anywhere in the school on the grounds and to film your movies, especially when you're trying to show other students good examples of how to behave. And that kind of intrigued me as well, to see them have that freedom. Especially in New Tech, because we certainly do preach about responsibility and the respect that these kids, in working and doing these projects together, if everybody doesn't carry out their own little part, then unfortunately it affects the grade of the whole group. So not only are they worried about their own parts, but they're worried about each other's roles, because ultimately the end result is to get graded in various areas, from collaboration to critical thinking to agency and all that. And you want to make sure that everybody's doing their role and being responsible. So that's another interesting way, the way I guess technology is used. Also, I should mention that I talked about the tables at wheel. In some of the rooms, they have the tables that you can actually write on. So they're plain like white tables. They wheel as well, and the kids are writing on them with dry erase markers, especially like the math classrooms upstairs. And I just thought that was very interesting, the way they can write on it, erase it right away, and then write on it again. And that's another very innovative way, I think, that the kids are learning in this program. And also, I should probably mention that our next project, and this is just kind of in the works right now, we're going to do the Middle Ages in the world history aspect. And in speech, I'm going to incorporate something I learned from a good friend of mine, communication etiquette. And I've been teaching it ever since then, for the last few years. So I've thought about, how am I going to incorporate communication etiquette to the Middle Ages? And I was thinking that it's so important to know how to be proper in general in today's world versus how communication etiquette was carried out back in the 12 or 1300s, and how it's changed over the past several hundred years, and ultimately how it's led to a better existence, really, for all of us to try to be healthier and cleaner and whatnot. But point is that I think it'll tie in well to the Middle Ages, and we're actually brainstorming our next project right now. I want to also add, before we conclude, that And I'm learning. I'm learning as I go because again, this is my first year teaching high school, and especially being part of this elaborate new tech program. And it's intriguing to see the ECHO program that we talked about, which is similar to Schoology, but it's intriguing to see how the students embrace it and are kind of learning along with us, and how they have to go online to find similar things, like I mentioned, the way they would at the next level in college. And I love the whole idea of the syllabus and the fact that they realize that it's important to consistently check ECHO, because if they don't, then they're going to definitely miss out on a lot of imperative things that are incorporated with the course overall. So to me, that's one of the greatest things about New Tech, is the fact that this whole ECHO program is teaching these kids how to use that type of technology overall. And the fact that everything is there, and the rubric, like I mentioned, how they have to, if they want to be proficient, if they want to get an A, or if they're okay with just kind of a middle of the road grade, it variously tells them, this is the world history rubric, this is the speech rubric, this is what's been taught, this is what is expected. If you want to get a great grade, then this is what your group all needs to do collaboratively. So it gets more and more interesting, it seems like, by the day.
Now, you said that ECHO is something specific to new tech buildings?
Yes, it is. And it's basically like it's ECHO's version of Schoology.
Mm-hmm.
And it is definitely specific to new tech, and they're actually constantly improving it, because obviously this is the second year that that new tech has been in El Paso, and I think that they're still working out some issues like any other program. But it's so far, the feedback that I've spoken with the kids about, they are extremely happy with it, and it takes a little bit to get the hang of it, of course, with the grading, because you're kind of grading and incorporating, like I mentioned, there's knowledge and thinking, there's other skills and agency and all these different things that you have to kind of look at for the students. But overall, it seems to be great, especially for college readiness.
With ECHO, the students have school-wide learning outcomes, and so there are 5 or 6 learning outcomes: written communication, oral communication, knowledge and thinking, agency, and collaboration.
Right.
So 5. And so that's what they're graded on. So each assignment is one learning outcome. So you just, as in their gradebook, it's similar to Teams, but in their gradebook, it'll tell them this was an agency grade, so this is how much percentage of your grade it is.
Right.
So like agency, for example, with us, agency is just being accountable for your work. So if we said, okay, I'm going to do a notebook check, that's an agency grade. So it'd be 10% of their grade. And so they just kind of keep track. It's our own little learning management system.
Yeah.
I feel Schoology is a little better. But what I like about ECHO is they log in and it gives them the agenda for the day.
Yeah.
So they know exactly what they're doing. If I want to give them a link, I put it on ECHO, they click on it, it pops up on their computer, and they can go with it.
And it's a point system. So, like, let's say you're grading them on agency on a weekly basis. It's like you can make it a 0 to 10 point system, and then if they're doing their actual primary project, you'll make it worth up to 150 points. Just an example, because obviously the weight is more than just the weekly assignments. And also, the students, not only are they able to see their grades on ECHO, which is, like I mentioned, as a point system, but they also can receive feedback from the teachers. So the students, not only do they instantly receive their grades, but they also get to see maybe some notes the student had put in. If, like, for example, if they're doing a mini speech prior to their, for example, informative speaking, I recently had them inform us about a place they visited, how it's different than El Paso, why they would recommend going there. Each student came up for 1 to 3 minutes and kind of gave us an informative speech, and then instantly the grade, of course, put in there. And then, like I mentioned, if there's feedback, not only can I talk to them individually, but also I can incorporate that into ECHO so they can get that and remember it, because it's written down as opposed to you telling them and they forget a few minutes later.
Be gone in a few years when our district
Exactly.
decides that their
Yeah.
new tech is not a fad anymore.
But I mean, overall, like I said, not only did I make the jump to high school, but to New Tech, and of course Vanessa, ironically enough, in New Tech the same year, because when I first started teaching speech, she helped me out, of course, you a lot, Sarah Jane, and I just think it's intriguing to be part of this whole program and to see all these new little aspects of teaching speech and learning about different types of technology. And it's a very, I guess, we're all learning, together.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a balancing act too, because having been around as long as I have, been teaching as long as I have, I'm a little resistant
Sure.
to all of the technology because I feel like it's been a detriment to communication etiquette.
Right.
For starters, for just one thing.
Sure.
But I am finding that even though I am resistant in some aspects of it, it's definitely beneficial in others. I think with middle school, like you said, Vanessa, it's a challenge because they're all wanting to watch YouTube videos and play games. I do think it's a challenge. However, it's so much easier than having to book yourself into the library 8 weeks in advance because that's the only time you can get in, and just pray that your lesson plans, go smoothly until that point.
Exactly.
So it's definitely by far very easy that way, and certainly has been beneficial. But I still think that there's some good old-fashioned ways to teach speech.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I really do. So
And I think it's difficult when we have a district like ours that focuses so much on assessment and data,
Yeah.
and regardless of what content area you teach, you need to make sure that you prove that your kids are progressing. And so that's why I use things like clickers and things like Socrative. That's like, okay, here's my
Here it
data.
is,
Here
right.
it is. Like, I fulfilled your requirement while I can still do my speech stuff. And like you said, technology will be there, but you still need to talk to somebody.
Right.
And nothing beats that. So.
I mean, like I was saying earlier, I take copious notes during every presentation
Sure,
because for
sure.
me, that's my form of assessment.
Absolutely.
I want to see the growth throughout the year, and so I actually write on like NCR paper, so that I keep a copy and they keep a copy, and so we go over individually. Okay, this is what I saw. This is what you did well. This is what you need to improve on, and they keep that so that next time, this is what they know they need to focus on. And it does seem funny because people are like, oh my God, you still have NCR paper? Well, yeah, because 100 years ago I bought a case of it and it lasts forever. But it really is, and it is that visual thing. And quite frankly, I can do it immediately versus I'm on my computer, I'm not really watching them because I'm too busy typing, making sure I'm not making errors. So this way, I can still be writing and watching and paying attention, and it's fresh in my mind. So I know that it's totally old school, but I do think it's beneficial for the kids right then to say, okay, I see what you're saying. I see what I did wrong.
And I remember when your mom was my speech teacher, she would write on slips of paper right away and give it to us, and that's really interesting that you mentioned that, because that's interesting. And I agree about assessments, because people mention, okay, well, how do you assess in speech? Well, obviously the best assessment overall are the performances, and of course you see the growth throughout the school year, and you talking to them and giving them the feedback, and the other students even constructively giving feedback is the absolute best way, because I can give you a test, you'll probably remember it, and then you forget it right away.
Right.
But if you perform in front of an audience and you realize what it takes to be an exceptional public speaker and a great communicator, that will hopefully stay with you a lot longer than taking a quiz or a test. And I think that is one of the greatest aspects. You talk about public speaking, comm speech, the whole 9 yards of actually teaching the course overall.
That's why the state of Texas needs to recognize the importance of speech communication.
Can't agree more. Did you guys have any other questions or anything you wanted to bring up at all?
No, I mean,